I still remember the sound before her voice, the soft click of her heels against the wooden floor, then the faint sigh of her jacket sliding from her shoulders. It was the kind of silence that pressed against your ribs, heavy, waiting for something to happen. She was standing by the window again, half lit by the orange spill of evening light. The kind of light that made everything look softer, even the edges of her face, the faint lines near her mouth, the ones that deepened when she smiled but didn't now. I hadn't meant to stare, but she looked like a secret I wasn't supposed to want. "Are you going to keep watching me like that?" she asked, still facing the glass. Her tone wasn't sharp. It was amused, the way someone teases you when they already know the answer. "I wasn't watching," I said. Too quickly. She turned then, and her eyes caught mine. They were dark, unreadable, but not unkind. She had that look, the kind that makes you want to tell the truth even when you shouldn't. "Then what were you doing?" I tried to find words. Trying not to. That made her laugh. A quiet, unguarded sound that filled the space between us. Her laughter wasn't loud. It was warm, almost tired, like she'd forgotten how to enjoy it until just now. "You're impossible," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Maybe," I whispered, stepping closer. "But I can't stop trying." The distance between us felt thinner than air. I could smell her perfume, faintly citrus, something with memory in it. The kind of scent that stayed on your sleeves after a hug you weren't supposed to think about later. She looked at me, really looked, and I felt something shift. Not attraction, that had been there for weeks, but recognition. Like she saw the part of me that still stumbled, still wanted to be understood. "You don't even know what you're trying for," she said softly. "Maybe not," I admitted. "But I think you do." For a second, neither of us spoke. She glanced at the table. 2 coffee cups, one untouched, steam already gone. I watched her fingers trace the rim of hers, slow and absent, as if she was trying to find the right edge of a thought. Her hand brushed mine when she reached for the sugar. It wasn't intentional. Or maybe it was. Skin against skin, quick, electric, nothing dramatic. Just enough to make every nerve lean forward. Her breath caught. Mine did too. The air thickened between us. The hum of the old refrigerator, the low creak of the wooden chair as I shifted closer. "Don't," she murmured, but her voice didn't sound certain. "I'm not doing anything," I said, though my pulse betrayed me. "You're thinking too loudly." That made me smile, and for a moment she almost did too. Almost. Outside, a car passed, headlights sweeping across the window, spilling light over her face. She looked away then, just slightly, like the brightness embarrassed her. Or maybe it was me. The room smelled of coffee and something quieter, hesitation maybe. She exhaled slowly, fingers curling around her cup again. "You should go," she said finally. I nodded, but didn't move. She didn't look at me when she spoke next. "If you stay, you'll make it harder to leave next time." Her words landed like a door half closed. I opened my mouth to answer, to say something reckless or honest, but then came the sound, the knock on her front door. 3 slow knocks. Her eyes met mine, wide this time, unguarded. "Don't say anything," she whispered. And then she turned toward the door. The sound of the door closing still hung in the air long after she returned to the kitchen. She didn't look at me. She never said who it was. She just leaned against the counter, arms folded, breathing quietly, like she was waiting for the silence to settle again before trusting herself to speak. I wanted to ask, but her stillness warned me off. "You shouldn't be here this late," she said finally. Her voice wasn't cold, just careful, like she was choosing words that wouldn't. "Invite more. You said that last time. This time I mean it." I smiled a little, though it felt misplaced. "Then why did you open the door?" She sighed, almost laughing, almost not. "Because I'm bad at pretending I don't miss people." There it was, that tiny fracture in her composure. The honesty she tried to hide inside her poise. Her name, Elena, felt too intimate to say out loud right then. It didn't fit the moment, heavy as it was, full of all the things we didn't talk about. She'd told me once, weeks ago, that she'd been married for 12 years. Then, nothing more. I'd filled in the blanks. A husband who forgot how to listen, a life too quiet for a woman who still wanted to feel seen. And me, just 26, still learning what to do with everything I felt too much of. She poured another cup of coffee, though hers was already cold. "You'll understand one day," she murmured. "Why people my age stop reaching for things that can hurt them. Maybe I already do." Her eyes flicked up at that. I saw the flicker, the part of her that didn't want to believe me, but couldn't help hearing the truth in it. I don't think you do, she said softly. You're too young. Everything still feels like a beginning to you. I wanted to tell her that beginnings were only beautiful when someone was brave enough to stay through the middle, but the words felt too heavy for the air between us. Instead, I reached for her mug. You take it with sugar, right? Her hand brushed mine as she took it back. It wasn't a deliberate touch, or maybe it was, just not one she meant to linger. Her fingers were warm, faintly trembling. For a moment, neither of us moved. You shouldn't look at me like that, she said quietly. Like what? Like you're trying to memorize something you're not supposed to keep. Her words stayed between us, fragile, echoing. I could smell her perfume again, faint and human and close enough to feel the warmth of her breath when she spoke. My pulse stuttered, and I looked down just to find somewhere safe to rest my eyes. She took a slow step closer, then stopped. You make me forget how old I am, she whispered. You make me forget it matters, I said. That made her smile, small, tired, beautiful. For a long second, she didn't pull away. Her hand lingered near my shoulder, fingertips almost tracing the fabric of my shirt, not quite touching. The space between us felt electric, the kind that doesn't need movement to spark. Then, she did touch me. Just once. A hand on my sleeve. A gesture that lasted too long to be accidental. Don't stay long, she murmured. I won't. But neither of us moved. And in that quiet, the clock ticked, soft, rhythmic, while her thumb brushed once, gently, against my arm. That single motion said everything neither of us could. The next time I saw her, it was raining, soft, gray, half-hearted rain that blurred the city into a watercolor. I'd stopped by her shop under the excuse of returning the book she'd lent me. Elena was alone inside, hair slightly damp, sleeves rolled to her elbows as she arranged a display of old records. The air smelled faintly of dust and coffee, and something else, something like waiting. You'll ruin those if you keep the window open, I said, stepping in. She looked up, surprised, then smiled faintly. I liked the sound of the rain. Her voice had that hushed tone, the one she used when she wasn't sure if she wanted to send me away or keep me talking. I handed her the book. You forgot to write your name in it. I didn't forget, she said, turning a record over in her hands. I didn't think you'd keep it long enough to need a reminder. The words landed somewhere between tease and truth. Maybe I just wanted a reason to come back. Her eyes lifted, searching mine, just long enough to make my heart stumble. You shouldn't say things like that, she murmured. People might think you mean them. I do. The silence that followed was thick. Only the sound of rain filled the space, steady, relentless, pressing us closer. She set the record down, walked past me toward the counter, close enough that her shoulder brushed mine. That single touch was enough to scatter my thoughts. Elena. She stopped, back to me. Don't. But she didn't move away either. I hesitated. Sometimes it feels like we're pretending not to notice. Her hand tightened around the edge of the counter. You think I don't notice? Her tone had changed, low, almost breaking. Before I could answer, her phone buzzed on the table. The name on the screen flashed for a second, David. She reached for it quickly, but I'd already seen. Her ex-husband. She'd mentioned him once, briefly, in that same quiet tone she used when something still stung. She silenced the call without looking up. I should lock up, she said. It's only 6. Still. She turned, finally facing me. Her expression was composed again, but her eyes betrayed her, soft, tired, wanting something she wouldn't name. You can stay until the rain stops, she said. But just until then. I nodded. We stood near the window, side by side. The air between us felt charged, pulsing with everything unsaid. Her arm brushed mine again, once, twice, like a heartbeat that couldn't decide if it wanted to stop or keep going. She turned toward me then, slow, uncertain, and for the first time, I thought she might let it happen. The distance between us shrank to a breath. I could feel the warmth of her skin, the faint tremor in her exhale. Then the bell over the door chimed. A man stepped in, shaking rain from his coat. Hey, Elena. Oh, sorry, didn't realize you had company. Her whole posture shifted. Calm, practiced, distant. Just a friend, she said quickly. He was dropping something off. The word friend hit like a door closing. I nodded politely, stepping back, pretending to check my phone. My heart was still racing. The man smiled at her, then at me, oblivious. Looks like the storm's sticking around. Seems so, she said softly. When he finally left, the shop was quiet again. Elena turned toward me, eyes bright with something raw. Guilt, maybe, or the exhaustion of pretending. I told you, she whispered, voice barely steady. People might see. I don't care. You should. But when I started to leave, she caught my wrist. Just long enough to make me stop. The touch was small, a pulse, a breath, a confession. And for the first time, I hadn't planned to see her that night. But I couldn't stop thinking about the way her hand had lingered on my wrist, the ghost of her touch replaying like a song I couldn't turn off. By the time I reached her street, the rain had stopped, but the air still smelled of it. Sharp, clean, electric. Her apartment window was lit. I told myself I'd just returned the umbrella she'd left in my car. Nothing more. When she opened the door, surprise flashed across her face, followed by something harder to read. You shouldn't be here, she said, voice soft but shaking at the edges. I know. Then why are you? Because pretending not to want to see you is getting harder. She stared at me for a long moment, as if searching for the version of me she was allowed to care about. Then she stepped aside. The room was dim, lit only by a lamp in the corner. Her sweater hung loose off one shoulder. Her hair was damp from a shower. The faint scent of soap and wine lingered in the air. I was just, she began, then stopped, folding her arms. You can't keep doing this. Showing up. I know, I said again. Her gaze faltered. You think this is easy for me? I took a slow breath. No, I think you're scared. Her eyes lifted, sharp, wet, defensive. Of what? Of feeling something you thought you'd buried. That landed. She looked away, but not before I saw the crack in her composure. You're too young to understand what this costs, she whispered. Then tell me. Her voice trembled. My age. My reputation. My self-control. I took a step. Closer. You think I haven't thought about what people would say? Don't, she said quickly. Don't make this sound noble. It's not noble, I said. It's real. She let out a low, helpless laugh, the kind that tries to hide tears. You don't even know what real costs yet. I closed the distance between us before she could turn away. My hand brushed her hair back, fingers grazing the curve of her neck. She froze. Not from fear, but from knowing exactly what would happen if she moved. Elena, I whispered. Her breath caught. She looked up at me, eyes wide, pupils dark, mouth trembling. This is wrong, she murmured, but her voice was barely air. I don't care. Her hands pressed against my chest, not to push me away, just to steady herself. I could feel her pulse through her palms. If I let this happen, she began, but the rest never came. I leaned closer, close enough to feel her words against my skin. Then it happens, I said. For a heartbeat, everything went still, the ticking clock, the hum of the lamp. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Her forehead touched mine. My hand found her waist. And then, a knock. Sharp. Sudden. We froze. She pulled back, eyes wide. The sound came again, louder this time. Elena, a man's voice called from the other side. She went pale. It's my brother, she whispered. I didn't move. Couldn't. Go, she hissed, voice breaking. But my hand still lingered against her skin. One last second, one last impossible second, before she stepped away and the world rushed back in. He didn't let go right away. By the next morning, the world looked ordinary again. Sunlight spilling through the blinds, traffic humming below her window. Nothing left to remind me how close we'd come to crossing that invisible line. Except her silence. Elena hadn't answered my texts. Not the "Are you okay?" or the "I'm sorry I stayed too long." Nothing. I told myself I understood, that I'd scared her, or maybe embarrassed her. But when the hours turned to a full day, understanding started to feel a lot like punishment. By evening, I gave up pretending I could stay away. The shop lights were off when I arrived, but the door was unlocked. Inside, she was sitting at the counter, staring at her phone. A single glass of wine in front of her, half empty. She didn't look up right away. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. You said that last time. Her mouth twitched, not quite a smile, more like exhaustion. You don't listen very well. I took a few steps closer. Did I do something wrong? Her eyes finally lifted. They were red-rimmed, tired, and somehow older than before. You didn't. I did. Something in her tone made the air go still. What do you mean? She hesitated, thumb tracing the rim of her glass. My brother. He saw you leave. He asked questions. My stomach dropped. What did you tell him? That you're one of my students. The word hit like a slap. Your student. It was the only thing that made sense, she said quickly. He knows I teach part-time at the community center. He wouldn't. I cut her off. So that's who I am now. Her breath caught. Don't twist it. I'm not twisting anything, Elena. You're ashamed. I'm protecting you, she snapped, louder than I'd ever heard her. Then quieter, protecting both of us. The silence that followed pulsed between us. My pulse thudded in my throat. She stood, pacing behind the counter, arms crossed tight like she was holding herself together. I didn't mean for this to go so far, she said finally. You were supposed to be just someone to talk to. But I'm not. Her eyes flickered toward me, full of something raw. No, you're not. I took a step forward. She didn't move. Another step, and we were close again, too close. Her breath came shallow. Don't, she whispered. But when she turned, her shoulder brushed my chest, and her hand came up. Maybe to steady herself, maybe not. Either way, her fingers found mine. You lied, I said softly. I know. Why? She swallowed hard. Because it's easier to lie than to admit how much she stopped herself, shaking her head. How much you what? Her hands trembled. How much I think about you. The words landed heavy between us. Equal parts confession and surrender. For a moment, neither of us breathed. Then her phone buzzed again on the counter. The same name. David. She glanced at it, then at me. He's back in town, she whispered. The air seemed to tilt. Why? I asked. He wants to talk. About us. Us. She nodded, eyes flicking away. He knows, somehow? Or thinks he does. Her hand was still in mine, shaking. What are you going to do? I asked. She looked up, voice breaking. I don't know. But whatever it is, I can't undo it now. Her hand slipped free, but not before her thumb traced my palm. Slow, lingering, as if memorizing it before letting go. And then she turned away, leaving me standing in the dim light, knowing something had already shifted, and there was no going back. It was late when she called. Just one line in her voice message. Can you come over? Please. No explanation. No time to think. When I got there, the door was already open. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, hair loose, a half-empty glass of wine beside her. The room looked lived in but unsettled. A blanket draped halfway off the sofa, a book face down, her phone screen still lit with an unanswered message from David. Her eyes found me and stayed there. He came by, she said. He knows. I closed the door quietly. What did you tell him? The truth, she whispered. That you're not my student. That you never were. The air between us tightened, heavy with all the things we hadn't dared to say. Elena. I started, but she shook her head. He asked if I was involved with you. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Why not? Because it would make it real. It already is, I said. Something inside her broke then, not loudly, not with tears, just a small exhale that sounded like surrender. She stood, moving closer, slow enough that I could have stepped back. I didn't. You don't understand what this means for me, she said, her voice trembling. People talk. They judge. They see a woman my age with someone like you, and they think. I don't care what they think. But I do, she said, almost pleading. Because I've built my whole life on being careful, on not wanting too much. Then why call me tonight? Her answer came in a whisper. Because I can't not. We were inches apart now. I could see the pulse in her throat, the shimmer of unshed tears in her eyes. She reached up, fingers brushing my collarbone, hesitating there as if touching me would seal her fate. I tried to stay away, she said. Every day? And then you'd walk in with that look. The one that asks questions I'm not ready to answer. What if I stop asking? Her lips parted, a breath, not a word. You won't. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was dense, charged alive. The lamp hummed faintly in the corner. Rain began again outside, tapping against the glass in a slow rhythm that matched the beating in my chest. I lifted my hand to her face, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. She didn't move, just closed her eyes, as if letting me do it meant something more than she could say. When she opened them again, everything was clear. I'm tired of being afraid, she whispered. And then she leaned in. Not reckless, not hungry, just finally honest. Her forehead rested against mine. For a heartbeat, neither of us breathed. This doesn't have to be perfect, I murmured. Just real. Her eyes met mine. Calm now. Then stay, she said. No hesitation. No more pretending. I nodded, and in that quiet, it was enough. The decision made. The distance gone. The truth finally seen in full. No fireworks. Just two people who had finally stopped running. Morning came quietly, with the kind of soft light that forgives everything. The rain had stopped some time before dawn, leaving her window fogged and the world outside washed clean. Elena was still half asleep on the couch, one hand resting against her cheek, the other loosely tangled with mine. We hadn't said much after she'd asked me to stay. No declarations, no promises, just silence that felt, for once, peaceful. When she stirred, her thumb brushed my knuckles, absent-minded and gentle. I thought I'd regret it, she murmured, eyes still closed. And I don't. She smiled faintly, and I felt something unclench inside me. The tension that had held us in knots for weeks was gone, replaced by something steadier, not certainty, but willingness. I kept thinking, she said, voice low, that people would look at me and see something wrong, that I'd lost my mind. I traced a small circle across the back of her hand. And now I think I'm just done pretending I don't want to be seen. The words lingered between us like sunlight catching on glass. She sat up, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. Her hair was still slightly damp, curling against her neck. I watched her pour coffee, her movements unhurried now, almost shy in their calm. Do you think this lasts? She asked softly, not looking at me. I don't know, I said honestly, but I think it deserves the chance to. That made her laugh, a quiet, warm sound that felt like an answer. God, you always sound so sure, she said, handing me a cup. I'm not, I admitted. I just know how it feels when I'm with you. She looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't see hesitation in her eyes. Just warmth. Do you realize, she said with a half smile, how impossible you are? Completely, I said. She laughed again, shaking her head, then leaned forward, slow, deliberate, until her forehead rested against mine. No urgency this time, no fear, just closeness. Her breath was steady, her hand finding mine. Again, whatever happens, she whispered, don't let me forget how this feels. I won't. Outside, the city was waking, soft footsteps on wet pavement, a car starting somewhere in the distance. The world hadn't changed, but something in us had. We sat there for a long time, knees almost touching, fingers intertwined. No grand declarations, no dramatic endings, just two people who had finally stopped fighting the gravity between them. When she leaned in and pressed a quiet kiss against my temple, it felt less like a beginning or an ending, more like an answer we'd both finally stopped running from. And for the first time, everything felt simple. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?